Have some of you people noticed that as you get a little older that your kids get kind of bossy with you? So ours treat us like we're 8 years old sometimes. Now, see, Pa and I are retired dairy farmers here, and now we lived in town now, in our little retirement house, and now Edgar, our oldest grandson, is running the home place. He's the farmer. And he came over to say goodbye to us when we left for Arizona, and he walked around our car shaking his head. I said, boy, I hate to see you folks take off in a piece of junk like this. He said, heck, Pa, the only thing holding this dumb car together is that Ross Perot bumper sticker. Pa loved Ross Perot, you too? In fact, he calls our car the Ross Perot. I said, Pa, what do you call it that for? And he said, well, it looks good, it sounds good, it just doesn't keep running all the time. Edgar's such a worrywart. He said, Ma, you got to watch Pa's driving out in Arizona. Heck, half of the time in Pipestone, he's on the wrong side of the road. He said, Ma, I worry about you. This stupid car, it doesn't even have airbags in case of a collision. So I said, sweetie, don't worry about me. When we get to the top of our driveway and we head on out to Arizona, I just unhooked my brassiere. It's the same thing. Well, it is a different ball game driving out from Pipestone, driving out in Phoenix, Arizona area. All those, all those freeways going here and there. Goodness sake. I don't think anybody goes 65 miles an hour out there. Oh, no. Well, I did see one fella going 65, but he was picking up a hitchhiker at the time. I have to tell you how it's situated out there. First there's Phoenix, and then there's Scottsdale, then there's Tempe, then there's Mesa, and there's Apache Junction. And Pa and I live in Mesa, kind of in the middle there. And I tell you, those cars on the freeway, they just go whoosh, whoosh. One day, Pa and I went all the way from Mesa over to Phoenix in neutral. We didn't even know we were out of gas till we turned off the sidewalk. But I guess you got to go the speed you feel safest at, right, fellas? Pa goes about 20 miles an hour. And they don't like him on that freeway. He doesn't realize it, but they honk at him and they pass him. Pa said he likes it that they honk. It keeps him awake. Yeah. Well, the people on the freeway, they're friendly, and they wave, but they don't use all of their fingers. They're different. Yeah. So, and you don't get the medical attention out there you do in your own hometown where you know your doctor by first name. Forget it. They got great big fancy office buildings, and then the offices are all paneled and carpeted. And they don't give you any time, you know. Poor Pa, he was sick. Well, I suppose he was worn out from the trip, and right away he got the flu. Got that darn flu. Yeah. It wasn't the vomiting kind. In fact, he wished he could have for variety. But I felt sorry for Pa. I said, Pa, we can't get a doctor to come to the house. We can't even in Pipestone. You'll have to get the telephone book out and call up one of those clinics and talk to the doctor. So finally, Pa did. He called up the clinic and he told the doctor he had the diarrhea. And guess what? They put him on hold. My motto is stay away from those Arizona doctors. And I didn't go to the doctor this year, but I remember the last week we were in Arizona, the year before, the last week I had to go to the doctor. Yes, I had to go. I had kind of an embarrassing problem. It only happened if I walked real fast, or if I coughed, or if I sneezed. You seem to know what I mean. Well, I had to go. So there I go up to this fancy new building, you know, that he said, and get into the building, and all paneled and carpeted, you know. And out he comes rushing, so he didn't have to spend much time with me, I suppose. So he said, and what's your problem? Oh, kind of startled me. I thought, well, yes, well, I said, I can't seem to hold my water. What should I do? And he said, get off my rug. Disgusting. Leave him alone. But if you ever want to go to Arizona and get warmed up for a little while, it is not hard to find a place to rent. They're overbuilt out there. Everybody's so scared to go. Pa and I got a nice little 2-bedroom house out there. Nothing real fancy, but and it's got a carport. Well, it was a garage, but Pa rammed on through it. We got this carport. And we live 2 blocks from Dunkin' Donut and 4 blocks from Winchell Donut. We kind of live in donut land, which is hard on my diet. We go over several times a day. Busy. You know, our friends from Pipestone, they all live in those big RV parks, you know, that Val Vista Park, it's about 20 miles away. I can't believe it. Some of those park people, they drive 20-some miles to come in for a fresh donut, a Dunkin' Donut. Isn't that crazy? I thought it was funny. One day it was so busy, Pa and I couldn't even find a table and chair to sit at. We had to sit at the stool. I mean, I thought I was fat, and here I sit next to one of those park ladies, and she's really chunky, you know, kind of hanging over the stool. But very disciplined compared to me, I'll say that. Here I sit, eat the great big blueberry muffin. What is she having? 1 little donut hole. You know those little buggers, don't you, sweetie? Yeah, that's all she's having. I was kind of curious. As I said, is that all you're having for breakfast, is 1 little donut hole? She said, yes, I'm watching my weight. I didn't know what to say, so I said, well, it's certainly nice it's out there where you can watch it. Oh, well. We don't own this little house. No, we don't own it. No, Pa read once that more accidents happen in your own home, so he decided we should rent. So we rent. Yeah. And you know, Pa, he just kind of transfers himself from his easy chair in Pipestone and the television, and the easy chair and television out in Arizona. That's it. He doesn't care to go much. No. And, but I wish Pa would get some kind of a hobby, because we go over to some of those parks, and they got 65 different activities. Oh, they're making woodworking. You've got woodwork shops. They're making grandfather clocks in the woodwork shop, and some of them are... well, I don't know what they do. They shine up rocks in a blender. I haven't figured that out yet. And the ladies do double cross stitch. Oh, busy, you know. Oh, I wish Pa would get something to do. Well, he does have one little hobby, but it's so stupid I wasn't even going to tell you. You know what he does out there in Arizona? He hurries and gets a newspaper in the morning. Then he lists everybody who died. That takes him till about noon. And then in the afternoon, he gets out the telephone book and he crosses out all the names of it. It's kind of morbid, isn't it? Yeah. And everybody says to me, and what church do you go to out there? In Pipestone, I'm Methodist, but out there we're shopping church. Yeah, we just shop around. One day, Pa was outside in our yard there, and a fella came up in a car to the curb, and he rolled the window down. He said, excuse me, can you tell me the way to the Mesa Post Office? Pa said, well, you about got it. It's just 2.5 blocks to the right and 1.5 blocks to the left. There it is, the Mesa Post Office. The fella said, are you a winter visitor? That's what they call you out there. They don't say snowbird. That's in Texas, I guess. No, they call you winter visitor. He said, are you into visitor? Pa said, yep, we're from Minnesota. That's our little house there in the corner. Yeah, he says, well, he said, I happen to be a Lutheran pastor from Scottsdale, not very far away. I'd like to invite you and your wife to my church. He said, in fact, why don't you come Sunday night? He said, I'm going to make a talk on how you can get to heaven. He said, can you come? Pa said, no way. You can't even find your way to the Mesa Post Office. So, yeah, some of our friends from the park said, well, you're only 5 blocks from that wonderful church, that Lutheran church that they got the best minister in the whole town there. You ought to go. Well, the last Sunday we were there, we did. We gave ourselves plenty of time because, you know, Pa's kind of shuffle, pokey. And so we got over there in plenty of time. Darned if that minister wasn't sick that day. We didn't get to hear him at all. So they had kind of a casual service. They had what they call a hymn sing, you know, and they request the numbers. Oh, those Lutherans, they sang and they sang. And not good, but they sang. And then it got kind of quiet, and I thought, well, maybe I'll request something. Why not? I'm kind of food-minded, so I said, I would like us to sing, when the rolls are served up yonder, I'll be there. You like that too? The rolls are served up yonder. Then a lady, I noticed she was sitting by me, very dressy. She had a pretty suit on and shoes to match and jewelry, you know. And she said, I would like to request we sing Crown Him with Many Crowns. Then later I got introduced to her, and I found out her husband's a dentist. No wonder Crown Him with Many Crowns. But we really feel at home out there. It's our second. We've been there 8 years with the same landlord, you know, and he has it so clean and nice. All we got to do is hang up our clothes, and then we do have to get the telephone hooked up. And that is a thorn in Pa's side. I tell you, every year he fusses over that. It gets more expensive all the time. This year he said, I am not paying that kind of money to have that guy come out and turn a little switch. I can do it myself. So then I started getting the dial tone on my crock pot. Was I surprised, though? While I was hanging up the clothes, I guess Pa got a hold of a newspaper, and he said, I got an idea. I see here that there is a 10-screen movie theater over there by that Fiesta Mall. He says, by golly, why don't we go? Well, I bet we hadn't been to a movie for about 43 years. I always wanted to go, but no, Pa, such a stay-at-home. It didn't take me long to get ready. We went over to that movie theater, picked out a show, and then Pa, you know, last of the big spenders. He said, well, maybe I'll get us some popcorn. So he walked over to the concession stand, and he said, I'll have us a bag of popcorn, please. And the young fella said, $2.50. Pa said, $2.50? He said, the last time I went to the movie, it was 15 cents. That kid said, boy, are you going to enjoy the show today? We got sound now. That was the dumbest show anyway. I tell you, we picked a lemon. We had to sit through it 3 times to get our money's worth. Stupid. But it's always great to get back to my own hometown, Pipestone. And there's nothing like old friends, are there? No, siree. And I love it here. And that was a special summer we had this year because on the 4th of July, Pa and I went to our all-school reunion. See, now, 2 years ago, we got an invitation saying we're going to have this reunion. Pa and I went to the same little country school. That's what I was going to tell you out there. And many little schools are torn down, aren't they? Moved off, but ours still stands high on the hill in Pipestone County. Yeah. And we got this letter saying we're going to have this reunion, and I thought, won't that be fun to see all our old classmates again? And I got to thinking, 2 years? Heck, I got time to go on a real strict diet. You always do that for reunions, don't we, girls? And I'll go the thinnest, the youngest, the most beautiful-looking classmate there. Well, I didn't make it. That is not easy to get that fat off. Darn, I was disappointed. Then I got to thinking, maybe I'll get myself a facelift. That's the latest thing. You know, first of all, I got to tell you people something you probably don't even know. You look so young out there. But it seems like as you get older, like myself, everything gets a little looser and it starts to droop. You didn't know that, did you? And now they got these plastic surgeons who can just do miracles. See, they take all that loose stuff and pull it up over your hips and your stomach and your boobies and your chin and tie it in a knot right up here. That's a fact. Of course, I suppose you have to wear a hat the rest of your life. But I thought, why not? That'll make me feel real good for that reunion. You should do anything that makes you feel good, people. Yeah, I went up to Minneapolis to find one of those plastic surgeons to get an estimate. I think you should get an estimate. And there I found a nice doctor, a little young doctor. He spent a lot of time with me, looked me over real close. And then he said, you know, Granny, I think it might be cheaper just to lower your entire body. Sure, I was disappointed. But you know what really scared me out? A lady in my town here, she goes to my church and everything. She and her husband, they go down to McAllen, Texas in the wintertime. She didn't tell any of us about it, goes down to McAllen, gets herself a facelift, came home. We didn't even recognize her. I don't know if I want to change that much so my old friends don't know me, would you? No. Boy, I don't know what happened there. I think those plastic surgeons, they just overdid it on her. Just overdid it. Because now every time she raises her eyebrows, it pulls up her stockings. And if she sits down real fast, her mouth flies open. Of course, I think the saddest part of all is nobody wants to kiss her on her cheeks. They don't know where they've been. Say. Oh, I wish you people could have been at our reunion. We had a wonderful, about an acre of people sitting around our little school, come from everywhere, New York, San Francisco. Oh, it was wonderful. The committee worked 2 whole years getting that ready. Yes. We got there that day and they said, classmates, we are going to take a roll call, but please don't stand up and tell how many kids you got, how many grandchildren, who cares? Just stand up and tell a little remembrance of old school days. Well, heck, I didn't know they were going to ask that, you know. I didn't know. I had to kind of think about it. And I got to thinking, you know, when I was a kid girl going to country school, my grandma lived at our house. See, grandmas used to do that. They didn't have all these nice retirement apartments and stuff. I loved it. Grandma lived with us 27 years. But the only thing I didn't like about Grandma being there is, I know it's because she loved me so much, but every time I caught a cold or even looked like I was going to catch a cold, she'd make one of those mustard plasters and put that on my chest. I had to wear that dumb thing to school. Oh, I hated it. Just hated it. I remember all the kids would rub their bologna sandwiches on me. Hated it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we had a wonderful day, visiting and getting all reacquainted, you know. And, yeah. I think mainly what we talked about, of course, is how many changes there's been since we went to country school, and there sure has been the changes. You know, it used to just be so simple, reading, writing, arithmetic, and maybe on Friday they'd throw in a little geography, but what is it nowadays? Computers, computers. Yeah. And fancy classes, I hear they got ecology, remedial reading, visual aids. And then they got that driver's education and sex education. I understand they use the same car for those two. Disgusting, isn't it? I got a grandson who's a senior in high school. I said, Sonny, are you taking the sex education? He said, Granny, it's compulsory in the state of Minnesota. I think they've had it 15, 20 years. Didn't you know that? Well, I said, I surely didn't. Well, he said, it's not just in senior class. In every grade, according to their age, has got a book or a manual on sex education. Well, people I know, for one thing, I'm sure they don't have it in kindergarten, and I'll bet you anything in first and second grade, it's very basic, very simple. Probably something like, run, Mary, run, here comes John, is probably Well, I know for one thing, when Pa and I went to country school, there was nothing like the sex education. Heavens no. I guess we just called it recess. I love recess. I just love recess. Yeah. You know, my friend I told you had a facelift down in Texas. I guess her husband Elmer, he wanted to have a new look too when he got back from Texas, because he's always been real bald. That's the only way we ever knew him. And he goes down to Texas, gets himself a toupee, comes home. We didn't recognize him either. Oh, embarrassing. No, we didn't know him. Oh, but I tell you, he must have spent a fortune for that toupee. It's really a good one. Boy, you can hardly tell it's a toupee at all except for the rubber band under his chin. Really good. Pa would like to get a toupee too, but they're so darned expensive, he won't pay that. No. So he's trained the cat to sit on his head. So dumb. Looks so dumb. Yeah, the cat looks bored to death. But it's a funny thing, with all these opportunities the young people have, all these different classes, there is more teenage stress than there's ever been. Yeah, I take that Modern Maturity magazine. Do you take that? Beautiful. Yeah, and I read the high percentage of teenage suicides even. Now, isn't that just terrible? And then they say the drug problem is, oh, oofta, I hate to hear about that. It's not much better. And they say alcoholism starts early. Stress and worry, worry, stress, these kids. God, nowadays. I got to thinking one day, did I have any stress and worry when I was a kid girl going down the country road to school? I don't believe I had hardly any worries at all. Well, I might have had two little worries, boys and pimples. That was about it, wasn't it? Boys and pimples. But the nice part of that was if you got one, then the other one disappeared.